Miami police are investigating an incident involving boxer Floyd Mayweather.
In a world where champions once reigned supreme with fearless might, a seismic shakeup has rocked the boxing universe. The iconic Floyd Mayweather, once hailed as the undefeated titan of the ring, now stands at the crossroads of legal battles and shattered dreams. This is a tale of lost grandeur, whispers of deceit, and an empire built on controversy. The unyielding force of the law has compelled even the most venerated fighter to face a reckoning that could redefine his legacy. Prepare for an unprecedented dive into a scandal of epic proportions that will leave you utterly breathless right now. Few could have ever imagined that the man revered for his lightning speed, precision, and unyielding confidence in the ring would someday find himself entangled in a web of legal scrutiny that threatened to dismantle not only a career, but an entire lifestyle built on success and lavish excess. Floyd Mayweather, a name synonymous with boxing brilliance, spent decades projecting an image of invincibility that captivated millions around the world. Throughout his career, he curated a persona of sharp wit, impeccable self-assurance, and a near-mythical ability to escape defeat. Yet behind the glimmering lights of sold-out arenas and the roar of cheering fans, a different story was unfolding, one that involved secret financial maneuvers, intricate deals concealed behind layers of mystique, and a painstakingly crafted narrative of wealth that was as seductive as it was precarious. The fall of this boxing icon is not merely a story about a single legal indictment. It is an intricate drama that spans years of financial operations, whispered conversations, and meticulously hidden records. For decades, Mayweather had confidently boasted about the size of his empire, claiming ownership of a vast array of assets that supposedly included a series of ultra-exclusive properties and ventures valued in the hundreds of millions. The public was enchanted by the glamour of this lifestyle. Flashy cars, opulent residences, and a roster of endorsements that painted the picture of a man who had transcended the sport to become a global brand. But as new revelations emerged, a deeper narrative of alleged financial mismanagement and obscure dealings began to take shape, threatening to unseat the very foundation on which his legendary status was built. Investigations that were initially intended as routine financial audits quickly escalated into a full-blown federal probe that left little untouched. Law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly, sifting through mountains of records, digital correspondences, and audio memos that spanned years of his storied career. In a series of dramatic turns, evidence began to mount that hinted at covert financial gatherings, coded
Business Insider that really caught wind of it first because they were trying to figure out what was going on with the business inside of New York, and they exposed him, and everybody's talking about it. This crazy viral right now. OG, you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They got Floyd here. It says Floyd Mayweather is stepping into Manhattan's multi-family ring in a big way. The retired boxer has gone into a contract to pay $420 million for a 1,000-unit affordable housing portfolio with more than 60 buildings, according to sources familiar to the deal. Josh Gotti of Black Spruce Management is the seller, and Black Spruce Magazine declined comment. It says also here that the investor partner
communications and money transfers that challenged the integrity of the empire Mayweather had so confidently promoted. These investigations unearthed encrypted files and discreetly stored voice recordings where terms like freak-offs were casually mentioned. A term that quickly became synonymous with the murky financial transactions hidden from public view. During one such recording, Mayweather was heard expressing a raw vulnerability, admitting in a soft and almost broken tone, "There were moments when I wondered if the life I was leading was more illusion than truth." Such moments, candid and unguarded, provided a stark contrast to the bold declarations he was known for in the ring. As these revelations came to light, the roar of public astonishment grew louder. Here was a man who had for decades projected an aura of unassailable brilliance and dominance, now forced to acknowledge the inherent fragility of an image that had been painstakingly maintained. The narrative that had once bolstered his status as a champion was now undercut by an unfolding legal drama that transcended mere allegations. The charges focused primarily on tax evasion, painted a picture of someone who had, perhaps inadvertently, blurred the lines between smart financial maneuvering and reckless disregard for the rules. In interviews, Mayweather himself was compelled to address the swirling storm of controversy. "I built my life on the strength of my passion and my victories in the ring," he commented during one rare public appearance. But even champions can have moments where the weight of expectation turns into a burden too heavy to bear. "I never intended to deceive anyone. I always did what I thought was right at the time." His words, filled with a mixture of defiance and regret, resonated deeply with both his ardent supporters and his critics alike. The dramatic unspooling of events saw the FBI taking center stage, its agents piecing together a puzzle that many believed was too vast to comprehend. Reports emerged of extensive surveillance and highly technical forensic examinations that delved into every digital crevice of Mayweather's life. Smartphones and computers that had once captured the charismatic public appearances and larger-than-life moments now became the silent witnesses to secret conversations and transactions that the public had never imagined. This digital trail was not just a series of disjointed communications, it was a narrative in itself, telling the story of hidden meetings, hushed discussions, and the cryptic language of an underworld that coexisted with the dazzling lights of celebrity. One of the most unsettling aspects of the investigation was the discovery of a series of voice memos. In one such memo, his tone shifted from casual bravado to raw emotion. "I knew there
Right out of your hand?
Hey, Skip, they might be leading us both in the ring.
They might.
Like, get it,
here we
Floyd,
are.
'cause I need to get paid."
This is incomprehensible to me, and I fell out of my chair yesterday when I first read this story or heard about this story. In fact, a friend tipped me off and said, "You got to read this." But this man made around $230 million in 2015, and this man is, you won't hear me say a discouraging word about Floyd when it comes to IQ, smartness, his ability to make and handle money.
Yes.
But he's just flaunting, as you said, he's flaunting his opulence. He's also flaunting basically his middle finger at the IRS. You cannot do this.
No.
You will lose. This is one foe you can't outrun or outdance or outsmart or play defense on. You just can't get away with it. You can try for a while, but the clock is just, that meter is just running and running.
There were risks, he later admitted in a follow-up interview. "I never thought the very system that I trusted to protect me would end up exposing every secret I tried so hard to keep hidden." These statements painted a picture of a man torn between the necessity of maintaining his public persona and the inevitable exposure of the realities that lay beneath the surface. It was not simply the legal implications or the uncovering of hidden financial dealings that cast a shadow over Mayweather's career. It was the realization that behind every accolade and every triumphant moment in the ring lay a series of calculated decisions that now appeared to be part of a grand, perhaps misguided strategy to preserve an image of perfection. Throughout his career, Mayweather had been a master at crafting narratives. His carefully orchestrated public appearances, his meticulously choreographed interviews, and the dazzling displays of wealth that he flaunted were all part of a performance meant to elevate him above the realm of mere mortals. However, the same skill that had once served to inspire millions had now become the very tool that hid the cracks in his foundation. Observers noted that the more he strove to maintain an image of untouchability, the more elaborate his network of financial and personal relationships became. And as the layers of secrecy were peeled back one by one, the world began to witness not just the fall of a boxing icon, but the crumbling of an entire myth. Amidst the chaos of legal proceedings and media frenzies, the personal toll on Mayweather emerged as one of the most gripping aspects of this saga. Behind the steely gaze and the outward confidence lay a man who had come to bear the heavy burden of expectation, both his own and that imposed by a society enamored with his persona. Rumors of emotional distress, sleepless nights, and the burden of maintaining a facade began to surface. In a rare and heartfelt confession recorded during a period of introspection, Mayweather revealed, "The pressure was unlike anything I had ever known. Every step I took, every decision I made was under the watchful eyes of the world. There were nights I couldn't sleep, haunted by the whispers of my own doubts." These words struck a chord with many who saw in his struggle a reflection of the universal human condition, of the perpetual conflict between the reality behind the curtain and the image presented to the world. Even as the legal and financial ramifications of his alleged misdeeds began to dominate headlines, the cultural impact of Mayweather's downfall continued to resonate. His story was no longer just about an individual. It had morphed into a broader commentary on the nature of fame, celebrity, and the enormous expectations placed upon those who rise to extraordinary heights. Analysts and scholars
business. I actually find nothing wrong with that. It's smart. And so with this particular lawsuit, he had an investor pay $1.4 million in total for this section, and the investor was promised that the seats would sell at I think a 7 to 8x multiple, and he expected a return on his investment, and sure enough, he didn't get his initial investment back. He's strung along. He gets like $100K here and there, strung along, not getting paid. Now his investment allegedly is being rolled into Floyd's alleged fight with Manny Pacquiao, and so the investor's being strung along on this thing, and eventually, like us, it's like, yo, we're simply not getting paid in full. Like, we've been fucking dragged along for way too long now, and this guy finally filed a lawsuit against Floyd Mayweather. So that's the one that's actually active and pending, and then here we are.
There's another one pending too.
Another one?
Yeah.
For the cash deal?
began to dissect the implications of his case, suggesting that the scandal served as a mirror to the modern world's obsession with wealth and the sometimes blurry line between genuine success and the illusion of grandeur. In private conversations, experts remarked on the systemic issues that allowed a persona like Mayweather's to flourish unchecked, even as the underlying structures of accountability faltered. It's a wake-up call. One veteran sports analyst commented, "When the very pillars of what we consider success are questioned, it forces us to re-examine the values we hold dear." Mayweather's saga is a testament to both the power of image and the harsh realities that lie behind it. This introspection was not meant to tarnish his achievements, but rather to invite a more honest dialogue about the responsibilities that come with immense success. The relationships that Mayweather had cultivated over the years were also thrust into the spotlight. Celebrity ties and high-profile partnerships, once seen as a natural extension of his brand, were re-evaluated in the wake of the revelations. Figures from the entertainment world, including prominent personalities with long-standing associations with the fighter, found themselves having to clarify their own roles in the unfolding events. Rumors circulated about secret meetings and confidential arrangements with some of the biggest names in show business, suggesting that the line between sporting excellence and extravagant business ventures had grown disturbingly thin. In hushed tones, insiders recalled how Mayweather's lavish lifestyle sometimes eclipsed the strict boundaries that typically separated sports from business. There was always an element of risk, one close associate revealed. Floyd never shied away from pushing the envelope, whether it was in the ring or off it. But sometimes, that same drive to win can lead you down paths that are as treacherous as they are rewarding. These reflections were interspersed with his own comments, where he admitted that the thrill of living on the edge was both his motivation and his curse. "I have always lived life at full throttle," he once confessed during an impromptu interview. "Every victory was a rush, every loss a scar. But now, as I stand before this challenge, I realize that the real battle is not against an opponent in the ring. It is against the choices I made along the way." The FBI's investigation itself became a focal point of intense media scrutiny, a dramatic narrative that captured the public's imagination like a modern-day detective novel. Detailed accounts described how federal agents worked meticulously to untangle a complex network of financial transactions, hunting for clues in digital archives and obscure messages that held the key to unraveling a vast financial empire. The investigation unearthed layers upon layers of data that chronicled not only the
no different from the. We're gonna go into the Floyd Mayweather mine. So when the Europeans came to the Native Americans, well, they like to call them Native Americans, but the Indians' land, we don't call them European Americans. So I don't want to be called an African American. I'm an American. You know what I'm saying? You can call me a black American, but I'm an American.
So if America,
when I went
day-to-day operations of a man accustomed to unparalleled success, but also the hidden aspects of a life lived in the shadows of his own reputation. Among the troves of retrieved information were records of secret meetings held in upscale, discreet locations, places where whispers of financial maneuvers and coded signals spoke of an enterprise that had grown far beyond the confines of the boxing world. In a series of interviews after these revelations, Mayweather's voice, tinged with both defiance and sorrow, emerged as the haunting echo of a legacy in freefall. "I thought I had built something everlasting," he remarked, his words heavy with the realization of past missteps. But it seems that even the greatest fortresses can crumble when the foundation is not as solid as one believed. Throughout this turbulent period, the public remained riveted by the unfolding drama. Social media platforms exploded with debates and discussions, with fans and critics alike analyzing every nuance of the case. The narrative, laden with both intrigue and introspection, quickly spread beyond the realm of sports, becoming a potent symbol of the modern struggle for identity. In a world where images and reality often collide, countless narratives emerged from those who had once idolized Mayweather, each voice offering its interpretation of the many layers of his downfall. Some expressed shock at the revelations, unable to reconcile the champion they knew with the complexities now laid bare for all to see. Others, while disappointed, expressed a degree of understanding, acknowledging that the journey of a man who soared to such dizzying heights inevitably came with risks and vulnerabilities. As one longtime supporter poignantly noted in an online reflection, "We celebrated his victories without ever truly knowing the battles he fought behind closed doors." Now his courage in facing these revelations is both a stark reminder of his humanity and a call for us all to examine the truth behind the glitter. The broader repercussions of this scandal began to crystallize into discussions that went well beyond the realm of boxing. Analysts in financial circles, cultural commentators, and even lawmakers started to engage in conversations about the systemic issues that allowed such discrepancies in wealth presentation to flourish unchecked. It was no longer just about one man's alleged missteps. It became a larger debate about transparency, accountability, and the responsibilities that come with immense power and influence in our society. Commentators were quick to emphasize that while Floyd Mayweather's case was unique in its details, it was emblematic of a broader pattern that could potentially affect countless others who found themselves caught between the promises of prosperity and the harsh realities of scrutiny. When a system is
Dwayne Wade training his son, you don't see Dwayne Wade playing against just anybody. He's not doing it. You haven't earned that privilege. It's a privilege to be in the company of greatness, in their venue, in their habitat, in their specialized, home, per se. Floyd Money Mayweather should not be letting just anybody in the ring with him. That's
built on layers of secrecy and half-truths. One financial expert remarked in a televised discussion, "The eventual reckoning, however painful, is not just inevitable, it is necessary for the integrity of our institutions." In this way, the scandal began to serve as a catalyst for conversations that sought to redress long-standing imbalances, urging both public figures and institutions alike to re-examine the ethical frameworks within which they operated. Within the midst of these sweeping changes, Floyd Mayweather's own internal journey emerged as one of the most compelling facets of the entire saga. The once unassailable champion now found himself grappling not only with the legal ramifications of his alleged actions, but also with the more profound existential questions of identity, legacy, and redemption. In several introspective moments captured on camera, the boxer allowed his mask of invulnerability to slip ever so slightly, letting the world catch a glimpse of the man behind the persona. "I have always believed that every champion is defined not just by their victories, but by the ability to face their shortcomings head-on," he once said, his voice steady despite the turmoil raging both within and around him. "This is more than a legal battle. It is a journey into the heart of who I am. I have my regrets, and I have my triumphs, and it is in reconciling these parts of myself that I find the strength to move forward." These sincere admissions resonated with an audience that had long seen him as an almost mythical figure, a reminder that even those who seem larger than life are, in their essence, profoundly human. It was in the quiet moments between court sessions and public statements that some of the most startling reflections came to light. Close friends and advisors recalled evenings spent in contemplative silence, where the weight of the world pressed upon him in ways that no one in the glare of the spotlight could ever fathom. "There were times when I saw the man I was becoming, and the man I had once been, and the contrast was too painful to ignore," he later confided in a private conversation recorded for posterity. Such candid reflections revealed a soul wrestling with the dichotomy of ambition and accountability, of a life celebrated in public, yet riddled with complexities known only to a select few. His journey from the dizzying heights of glory to the stark, raw moments of self-doubt underscored a narrative that was as inspiring as it was cautionary. Through his remarks, one could sense a quiet determination, a resolve to learn from the mistakes of the past even as the glare of public scrutiny threatened to consume every fragment of his former glory. As the legal proceedings unfolded, the courtroom itself became a stage where the drama of Mayweather's life was laid bare for all to witness. The proceedings
got to stop. You want to get Conor McGregor in the ring for an exhibition match? All right, that's fine. You know, Conor sold that. It was great marketing. He's not a boxer, but hey, he was a knockout artist in the UFC. I get it. John Gotti III, I don't know anything about him. I'm not trying to disrespect him. And yes, I'm being smart. I'm not trying to disrespect the grandson of a mobster. Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is this.
were meticulously followed by an audience that was as captivated by the legal arguments as they were by the personal testimony of a man who had once defined an era. Courtroom exchanges carried a weight that extended far beyond the confines of legal technicalities. They became metaphors for the internal conflicts of a man who had long lived in a world of extremes. On one side were the cold, unyielding facts of financial records and digital evidence. On the other, the fervent passion of a fighter who had poured his life into a career defined by success. In the midst of such polarized narratives, Mayweather's occasional interjections stood out as moments of striking humility. "I never imagined I would find myself in a position where my every move was questioned," he admitted during one session, his tone reflective and somber. "But I now understand that it is through the toughest challenges that we truly discover who we are." Such statements, spoken in a measured cadence, provided not only a window into his personal struggles, but also served as a poignant reminder that no matter how illustrious the path may seem, the human spirit is always subject to trials that test the very core of one's being. In the wake of these events, the media landscape underwent a profound transformation. What began as relentless headlines and sensational news reports gradually shifted toward a more nuanced portrayal of a man caught between two worlds. Journalists who had once heralded Mayweather's invincibility now found themselves compelled to explore the deeper layers of his story, layers that spoke to the universal challenges of balancing public expectation with personal integrity. Documentaries, in-depth interviews, and retrospective analyses emerged, each seeking to capture the multi-dimensional nature of his journey. One notable interview found Mayweather in a rare moment of vulnerability, seated in a modest setting far removed from the opulence of his usual surroundings. "The life I led was a series of performances, each one more elaborate than the last," he recalled. "But behind every spotlight and every roar of the crowd, there was a reality that I often kept hidden. Now, as I face these difficult truths, I can only hope that my story will serve as a lesson, a reminder that greatness is not immune to error, and that every decision carries its own weight of consequence." His words left an indelible mark on viewers, sparking a renewed conversation about the nature of success and the importance of personal accountability, even at the highest levels of achievement. The unfolding narrative of Floyd Mayweather's legal woes and personal introspection began to ripple outward, influencing conversations in boardrooms, academic halls, and even policy debates. Financial analysts scrutinized his business.
Scumbag. It's like he's a great fighter. Sometimes he can be good, but it's like it's always I'm this, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. It just I don't know.
Would you entertain a conversation like someone raised you guys just for the sake of just you said he doesn't really know you?
Who?
Just Terrence. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't even hear. I'm sorry, bear with me.
But what you were saying about that?
Well, it was just the fact that, is there a possible that the bridge, like, if someone could call you guys talk, like, hey, you know, I didn't like this, because, you know, how us media, we ask questions.
I mean, it just, if you say he don't like me, it's like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
I respect that.
But, I mean, like, me personally, I don't know him. Like, I don't know him personally, or what's name. I actually like the way he fights and shit. But
is there a confusion, or is maybe the people...
No, it's just...
Business practices, cultural critics debated the ethical implications of celebrity branding, and lawmakers mulled over potential reforms aimed at ensuring greater transparency in financial dealings. In lively discussions aired on television and streamed across digital platforms, experts contended that while Mayweather's case was unique in its specifics, It was emblematic of systemic issues that had long been simmering beneath the surface of high-stakes financial empires. When you build an image that is larger than life, one commentator explained, there is always the risk that the truth, however inconvenient, will eventually catch up to you. This collective introspection, while sparked by the downfall of a singular figure, signaled a broader shift, a call for a more honest and accountable approach, not just in the realm of sports, but in any field where image and reality intersect. Tiro, an unexpected twist that only deepened the intrigue. Insiders revealed that some of the most critical evidence in the case was not derived from financial records alone, but also from private communications that offered a window into Mayweather's internal conflicts. Digital transcripts of voice memos, recorded during late-night sessions that blended strategy with introspection, revealed a man struggling to reconcile his public triumphs with private doubts. In one particularly memorable memo, his voice softened as he confessed, "I once thought that fortune would forever be on my side, but now I see that every coin has a shadow. The choices we make, no matter how well calculated, come with a price." Such reflections not only humanized a figure who had long been mythologized by his achievements, but also underscored the immense personal cost of maintaining an image of perfection against the relentless march of time and truth. With each new development, the narrative of Mayweather's fall from grace grew increasingly layered and intricate. Where once the headlines had captured the sheer spectacle of an iconic fighter facing legal retribution, the subsequent days revealed a deeper story of regret, resilience, and the painful journey towards self-discovery. Close friends and confidants, speaking under condition of anonymity, recounted moments when the boxer would isolate himself, grappling silently with his own perceptions of success and failure. Every champion has their battles, and not all are fought in the ring, one voice confided. In those quiet moments, I witnessed a man who was both proud of his victories and painfully aware of the costs they entailed. Over time, these personal accounts began to paint a picture of a man in transformation, a fighter who was coming to terms with the idea that the true measure of character is not in the splendor of one's achievements, but in the courage to confront one's own shortcomings. As the
people want that, like he scheduled a fight when I'm fighting, and I was signed to him.
Do you think that's a relationship that y'all could like mend? Have y'all mended or?
No, I just like it's more so like I respect him. And I won't say I respect. I appreciate him. I appreciate him for what he done because he did he did help me out. He definitely helped me out, but it was more so like. He would say that he gave me like money to get my mom out the hood, but me being from the hood, 10, 15,000, that's not, after a couple months, she gonna be back in the hood and I'm gonna be back asking you for money. Nah, why would I do that? I give her a couple dollars, feel me? And I take some whatever, whenever you need.
Courtroom drama continued to captivate the public's imagination. The reverberations of the scandal extended far beyond the confines of legal proceedings. Fans who had once idolized Mayweather for his on-screen brilliance now engaged in thoughtful debates about the nature of redemption and the possibility of rebuilding a legacy marred by controversy. Social media platforms became arenas for spirited discussion, with both supporters and critics engaging in passionate dialogue about whether the champion could ever reclaim his former stature. In one particularly moving online statement, a fan wrote, "I see the man behind the myth, the person who carried not just the weight of medals and victories, but also the burden of human imperfection. Mayweather's fall is not just a cautionary tale, it is a call to us all to be honest about our strengths and weaknesses." Such sentiments resonated deeply within the community, bridging the gap between adulation and accountability in an unexpectedly empathetic way. In the midst of this whirlwind, Floyd Mayweather's public statements began to take on a reflective tone that hinted at both regret and an emerging commitment to change. In a press conference marked by an unusually subdued atmosphere, he addressed the audience with a measured calm that belied the turbulence of the past months. "I have always believed that life is a continuous journey of learning and growth," he remarked, his eyes scanning the room with an intensity that reflected the gravity of the moment. "While I cannot change the decisions that have brought me to this point, I can choose to learn from them and forge a path that upholds the values I once held dear. I ask for your understanding as I work through these challenges." for it is only by facing our own truths that we can hope to emerge stronger on the other side. These words, delivered with a sincerity that touched many, signaled a potential turning point, a glimmer of hope that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, redemption might still be within reach. The unfolding crisis soon took on a dimension that transcended the personal and entered the realm of national discourse. As news outlets continued to report on every twist and turn of the case, political commentators and cultural critics alike began to draw parallels between the scandal and broader issues of accountability in high-profile industries. The discussion evolved into a nuanced dialogue about the responsibilities of public figures, the pressures of maintaining a carefully curated image, and the inevitable clash between personal reality and public expectation. In today's interconnected world, the truth is never far behind, one pundit observed during a widely viewed broadcast. The case of Floyd Mayweather is a stark reminder that no matter how high you soar, the foundations of integrity must always remain intact.
And that's what appears to happen, because they would reach out to, like the company who actually owns the building, who actually owns majority of the buildings. They reached out to them and they would drop some nuggets that just blows this Mayweather con just out there, right? It completely exposes it. For anybody with a brain, you can read this and know what's going on. Mayweather will want us to believe he's big dog who don't need partners, but read what these people said, right? So the people who own the buildings, actually, they said, Floyd Mayweather continues to be a reliable partner and a great ambassador for affordable housing. Bruh, this man is an ambassador for these folks, bruh. He took an upfront check, probably like, I don't know, like a share of the company, a very minute share to promote the company. So then the spokesman for Black Spruce Management said the real estate company,
These discussions, rich with insight and often tinged with empathy, challenged conventional narratives and invited audiences to consider the multifaceted nature of success and failure in our modern society. As the legal saga neared what many anticipated would be a defining conclusion, the personal transformation that had taken root within Mayweather began to emerge more clearly. In what appeared to be a calculated act of vulnerability, he began to share more about his journey in subsequent interviews, opening up about the internal battles that had driven him to the brink. There was a time when I equated power with perfection, when every victory was a measure of my worth, he recalled during an intimate conversation with a seasoned interviewer. But the reality is that power is fleeting, and perfection is an illusion. It is in our moments of failure that we truly understand what it means to be human. I now stand at a crossroads, not as a defeated fighter, but as a man who is determined to find meaning in every lesson learned. In these moments, Mayweather's voice carried not only the weight of regret, but also a spark of resilience, a determination to rebuild his life on more authentic terms, and perhaps, in time, to restore a measure of the respect he had once commanded unquestioningly. The climax of this tumultuous chapter came as the courtroom doors finally closed on a verdict that seemed as much a personal reckoning as a legal conclusion. The sentencing, which brought formal closure to the chapter of alleged tax evasion and financial mismanagement, was met with a complex blend of relief, sorrow, and cautious optimism. Observers noted that the proceedings, while harsh in their implications, also offered a rare opportunity for reflection. The judgment today represents more than the punishment of a few financial missteps, one legal analyst noted solemnly. It is a reminder that no one, regardless of their stature, is beyond the reach of accountability. In the wake of the sentencing, Mayweather himself offered a brief, measured statement that hinted at acceptance of the consequences, while also maintaining a glimmer of hope for personal redemption. I acknowledge the decisions I have made, he said, his tone steady. I accept the outcome of this process as part of my journey. I only hope that my story can serve as a lesson that even in the midst of great triumph, responsibility must never be overlooked. In the aftermath, as the dust began to settle on a saga that had riveted an entire nation, the story of Floyd Mayweather evolved into a symbol of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. What had initially appeared as the catastrophic collapse of a nearly mythic figure transformed into a narrative about the transformative power of confronting one's own truth. In hushed conversations and quiet reflections, people began to see that behind...
Now, here's where Mayweather get on that BS, bro. All right, here's where the shady business starts. A person directly involved in the deal with Mayweather said that Mayweather had purchased a small minority ownership interest in the portfolio, with options to expand that stake over time or acquire the buildings in their entirety. It is not clear if Mayweather will exercise those options. The person asked to remain anonymous to speak about a confidential arrangement with Mayweather. So off the rip, he lied, right? He misrepresented it to come across as if he owns 62 units, is a $400 million deal. I have no partners in this. No partners. This is Mayweather money. I got no partners. This is my money. When that's not the case at all. Now, they say that Mayweather have like a minority stake, a very minute minority stake. That could simply be, yo, we gave this man like 1 share for ambassadorship.
The spectacle and the controversy lay an opportunity for growth, a chance for one of the most celebrated figures in sports to demonstrate that even the mightiest can learn humility, adapt, and perhaps find a path toward genuine redemption. The cultural impact of the scandal rippled outward, igniting debates that were as profound as they were personal. Critics and fans alike pondered whether the relentless pursuit of an immaculate image was worth the cost, when it came at the expense of authenticity and personal well-being. In numerous televised panel discussions, experts argued that Mayweather's story was emblematic of a broader societal phenomenon, where the relentless pressures of fame and the high stakes of public persona often drove individuals to create facades that ultimately became unsustainable. The DJ truth is a force that cannot be indefinitely postponed, one cultural commentator declared during a primetime discussion. In the end, the clash between who we present ourselves to be and who we truly are is inevitable, and that moment of reckoning, however painful, is what ultimately defines our character. These reflections underscored the transformative effect that the scandal had on public consciousness, inviting a more nuanced conversation about the interplay between image, truth, and accountability. Even as the legal proceedings faded from the relentless glare of breaking news, the narrative of Mayweather's journey continued to unfold in quieter, more introspective moments. Public appearances became less about spectacle and more about genuine dialogue, as the champion turned contender made efforts to connect with audiences on a personal level. In one particularly moving televised address, he spoke not to the crowds of fans who once marveled at his unbeatable record, but to individuals struggling with their own battles of integrity and self-worth. "We all have moments when our paths take unexpected turns," he remarked with measured resolve. "I know my journey has been marred by decisions that I would never wish upon anyone, but I also believe that every challenge carries within it the seeds of new beginnings. I hope that by sharing my story, we can all learn to embrace our imperfections and forge ahead with renewed purpose." His words, laced with both vulnerability and an unwavering determination, resonated deeply with viewers and sparked a wave of introspection across audiences from all walks of life. In the months that followed the sentencing, the media narrative gradually shifted from a fevered account of sensational headlines to a more balanced exploration of the lessons that lay hidden within the saga. Documentaries were produced, capturing the multifaceted journey of a man who had once seemed invincible and who now faced the ultimate test of character. These productions delved into the financial intricacies that had fueled the controversy.
All this money made. No partners. All by myself. Over 1,000 apartments. I'm just getting started.
Floyd would even post and say this is for motivational purposes. Says every flexer known to mankind. But here's the thing. This is all cap. This is cap. Now, Floyd, I don't know if Floyd Mayweather is so used to deceiving and fooling niggas that he thought he could fool the actual business insiders, because a deal like this shakes up the business world. A deal like this gets talked about. People know about it beforehand. It's something that really shakes up the market. So for this to happen and for nobody...
The emotional toll of living a double life and the complex web of relationships that had both supported and ultimately contributed to his downfall. Interviews with those who had known him during his rise to fame offered insights into the pressures and contradictions that defined his career. "He was always larger than life," one longtime associate recalled. But behind that larger-than-life persona was a man who carried an incredible burden of expectations, secrets, and the constant fear of being exposed. Such remarks painted an intricate portrait of a man defined by the interplay of public adoration and private struggle. Even as debates raged about the ethical responsibilities of celebrities and the price of maintaining a legacy built on bravado, there was an undeniable undercurrent of admiration for the resolve that Mayweather began to exhibit in confronting his past. His gradual transformation, marked by raw admissions and an emerging willingness to acknowledge mistakes, sparked conversations about the possibility of redemption even for those who had once seemed beyond reproach. In a series of follow-up interviews that captured the evolving tone of the public discourse, Mayweather spoke candidly about the lessons he had learned. "I spent my life chasing the next win, the next accolade," he reflected. "But now I see that true strength lies in confronting your own vulnerabilities and learning from the missteps along the way. I am committed to a path of honesty, not just for myself, but for everyone who believes that behind every champion is a human being who can change." These declarations, imbued with a sense of humility and determination, began to reframe his legacy, shifting the focus from a narrative of downfall to one of transformation and hope. As the saga entered what many hoped would be a period of rebuilding and reflection, the discussions that had been ignited in the wake of the scandal continued to evolve. Social media channels, once ablaze with sensational headlines and polarized opinions, gradually became venues for deeper conversations about the nature of accountability and the redemptive power of self-awareness. Fans who had once perceived the controversy solely as a betrayal of the image they had cherished found themselves engaging in more thoughtful debates about the complexities of personal growth. Floyd's story, one online commentator noted, reminds us that even those we place on pedestals can falter, and that the courage to admit our shortcomings is the first step toward truly evolving. Such sentiments, echoing across countless digital platforms, reinforce the emerging narrative that while the fall from grace may be spectacular, the journey toward redemption is equally compelling. In this expansive narrative of triumph, failure, and eventual
more about you than me. They'd rather question the legitimacy of your power moves than applaud your growth. Racism, envy, entire stereotypes fueled the doubt, but I didn't fall to status quo. I studied. First off, Mayweather ain't write this, homie. Bro, we see Mayweather read. He ain't write this. I invested and I'm building a legacy. Whether they like it or not, respect the hustle instead of trying to dissect it. So he would tag The Real Deal, and he would say that this article here proves that he actually bought the property. But in fact, the article did the opposite. He didn't read it, right? Which is predictable. They confirmed that Mayweather never bought the properties. They would say the same thing. Yeah, Mayweather bought a very small percentage, and there's an option in his contract that, yeah, if you want to, come up with $400 million at some point and give us $400 million for this property, of course you can buy it, bro. But you don't got the $400 million to buy.
Discovery, the legacy of Floyd Mayweather now takes on dimensions far beyond the ring. His career, marked by memorable victories and the adoration of millions, is now inseparably linked to a chapter of profound personal and legal challenges. Every headline, every court appearance, and every quiet moment of introspection served as a reminder that the journey of life is as unpredictable as it is transformative. The lessons emerging from his experience are not meant to denigrate his past accomplishments, but rather to humanize a figure who has long been idolized, and in doing so, to invite us all to reflect on the values that truly define greatness. Today, as the echoes of one of the most sensational controversies in the history of boxing continue to reverberate, we are left with a story that is both cautionary and inspiring, a reminder that even in the dazzling glare of fame, the truth cannot remain hidden forever. The trial of an icon has morphed into a narrative about the transformative power of facing one's demons and the redemptive nature of confronting the shadows of our past. While the legal verdict may have signaled the end of one era, it has also opened the door to a new beginning, one where introspection, accountability, and the courage to change take center stage. In the final analysis, Floyd Mayweather's journey from the heights of boxing glory to the depths of personal and legal turmoil is a multifaceted story that continues to unfold in unexpected ways. His own reflections, spoken with candor and a sense of resigned hope, remind us that even those who seem immune to failure are not exempt from the universal truths of human fallibility. His voice, once a clarion call for victory in the ring, now carries the weight of hard-earned wisdom and the promise of a future that, while uncertain, holds the potential for genuine renewal. As we close this extensive exploration of one of the most riveting chapters in modern sports history, the saga of Floyd Mayweather stands as a testament to the complexities of ambition, the sacrifices demanded by fame, and the ultimate realization that the most compelling victories are those won in the quiet battles of the heart and mind. It is a story that challenges us to look beyond the glittering surface of celebrity and to recognize the intricate interplay of passion, responsibility, and the human desire for redemption. If you found this deep dive into the highs and lows of a boxing icon's extraordinary journey as fascinating and thought-provoking as we did, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Join our community for more exclusive insights, behind-the-scenes revelations, and engaging stories that uncover the untold narratives behind the headlines.